As the day fades, the world begins to loosen its grip on the noise and weight of hours. The horizon softens, painted in amber, rose, and violet hues that seem to linger just a little too long, as though reluctant to leave. You can almost feel the earth exhale, releasing the tension of sunlight into the waiting arms of twilight. And in that breath, the night sky begins to open. Tonight, I invite you to walk slowly with me, not through city streets, not across the fields you may know, but along the great river of time that flows from dusk to dawn. We will move gently, drifting, as if carried on a current of stars. We won't hurry. Night doesn't rush, and neither should we. Every minute of darkness is like a page in a story written above us, and tonight you will have the luxury of turning each one softly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And, if you don't mind, share your location and the local time in the comments below. I always love to see where in the world you are listening from. It feels like weaving a global constellation of souls, each of us gazing up at different skies, but resting under the same vast canopy. Let's begin at the threshold of evening, when light and dark wrestle for the final word. This fleeting in-between moment is called dusk, and it comes in stages. Civil twilight is when the sun has just dipped below the horizon, yet the world is still bright enough to read a book, still warm enough to trick your senses into thinking the day isn't over. As the sun slides farther down, nautical twilight begins. The sea once guided by stars suddenly regains them, pinpricks of light piercing the veil. And then, astronomical twilight, when the last glow of day finally surrenders and the heavens are allowed to breathe freely again. If you close your eyes and imagine, you can picture these stages not just as fading light, but as the careful closing of a great book. First, the librarian dims the lamps but leaves a candle burning for you to finish your last line. Then the candle itself is snuffed out, leaving only a faint trace of smoke. And finally, the library falls into silence, where the shelves themselves seem to hum with ancient secrets. This is the rhythm of twilight, the sun's way of bowing out gracefully, letting the stage belong to stars. Civilizations long before us paid close attention to these transitions. To the Greeks, twilight was the hour of Hesperus, the evening star. To sailors, it was the key to survival, for once the sun vanished, the stars became their compass. Imagine, for a moment, a weathered sailor standing on a wooden deck centuries ago, waiting for the first faint star to appear. He breathes in the salt air, the world sways beneath his feet, and with the rising of that star, he knows the direction of home. And in that waiting, we find ourselves mirrored. You too may sit waiting tonight, though not for navigation, but for rest. The first star is like the first sigh after a long day. It signals that you can let go, that the sky has taken over the watch. Think about the way your body feels in these hours. Just as the light drains slowly, so does the urgency in your muscles, the sharpness in your thoughts. The mind grows dimmer, but not in weakness, only in readiness for peace. Twilight is not just an outer phenomenon, it is inner as well. Your consciousness begins its own descent, from alert daylight to the dreamlike shimmer of half-thought, half-silence. In a way, civil, nautical, and astronomical twilight live inside of you too. What if, for a moment, we could imagine the Earth herself preparing for sleep? Her oceans quiet, like a heartbeat slowing. Her forests dim as if drawing a blanket of shadows over their branches. The cities, reluctant and glowing, are like restless children who resist bedtime. And above them all, the stars wait with infinite patience, knowing that no matter how much the Earth tosses and turns, night will always arrive. Twilight also carries with it a philosophy. In between the certainty of day and the certainty of night, there is this pause, a hesitation, and perhaps in that pause there is wisdom. Many traditions, from Taoist thought in the East to Stoic meditation in the West, emphasize balance, the middle path, the virtue of the in-between. Twilight is that balance, written not on parchment, but across the heavens. It reminds us that beauty lies not just in arrival, nor in departure, but in the tender act of transition. As the first stars begin to shimmer, notice how fragile they appear, like beads of dew on invisible threads. They flicker, not because they are weak, but because of the restless ocean of air between us and them. That trembling, that dance, is the voice of the atmosphere itself. To the ancients, these twinklings were omens, whispers from the gods. To us, they are simply the music of physics, refracted and bent, but no less enchanting. Now, as you rest, let your breath follow this rhythm. Inhale as though you are gathering the last light of day into your lungs. Exhale as though you are releasing it into the night. Each breath can be twilight itself, an exchange, a turning of one page to the next. Slowly, gently, you are aligning with the Earth's own cadence. Dusk is never abrupt. It does not slam doors. It does not shout. It lingers, whispers, softens. And in that softness, it gives permission for crickets to sing, for owls to stir, for you to loosen your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and feel the weight of the bed beneath you. Remember, this is just the beginning. Our journey tonight has only just crossed the threshold. Ahead lies the vastness of the night sky, ready to open itself one star at a time. But for now, linger with dusk. Let it hold you. Let it remind you that the day's burdens can be set down, and that you, too, are part of the slow, steady turning of the earth beneath an ancient sky. And as the stars take their positions like gentle guardians of the dark, you may close your eyes and know the watch is no longer yours. The night has you. The sky has you. You are safe to drift. Twilight is not just a single brushstroke across the sky. It is a sequence, a slow unfolding, like the turning of 3 delicate keys that unlock the door to night. Each stage carries its own mood, its own rhythm, its own gift to those who wait and watch. To know twilight is to know the art of transition, the way the world shifts, not in leaps, but in tender, gradual steps. The first key is civil twilight. This is the twilight most of us are familiar with, though we rarely give it a name. The sun has dipped just below the horizon, but its glow lingers, filling the sky with a pearly brightness. It is the time when you can still walk without stumbling, still read a book without straining your eyes. Street lamps begin to stir to life, but they are not yet needed. Civil twilight is the friendly twilight, the one that holds your hand and assures you that the day has not fully gone. Imagine standing in a meadow during civil twilight. The grass still glows faintly with the warmth of day, and the trees wear a soft halo of gold. The sky above is neither day nor night. It is a canvas of shifting blues and pinks, as though the horizon cannot decide which robe to wear for the evening. In ancient times, this was the hour when workers laid down their tools, when families gathered to share bread, when the rhythms of human life exhaled. It was the curtain call of the sun, not abrupt, but gracious. Then comes the second key, nautical twilight. It carries this name because it was once the lifeline of sailors. When the sun slips farther below the horizon, the stars grow visible enough for navigation, yet there is still enough faint light to trace the sea's horizon line. Imagine a sailor centuries ago, leaning on the deck of a creaking wooden ship, waiting for this exact moment. The sea is a vast mirror of ink, but the horizon is just clear enough to anchor his eyes. With the rising of the stars, he can find his path Orion, pointing to Sirius, the Big Dipper to Polaris. In this twilight, the ocean and sky join hands, and the sailor feels both awe and relief. Nautical twilight is also when the world begins to slip into mystery. On land, familiar shapes lose their edges. A tree becomes a shadow of itself. A hill becomes a silhouette. Even the faces of those beside you soften, their details blurred into something dreamlike. This is the twilight of imagination, when stories are born. Myths of wandering spirits, whispered in many cultures, may have emerged here in this half-light that blurs the boundary between the real and the unseen. And then, finally, comes the last key, astronomical twilight. By this stage, the sun has sunk so far beneath the horizon that its glow no longer interrupts the true dark. Astronomers, waiting with polished glass and patient hearts, rejoice. The heavens now open fully, revealing even the faintest constellations, nebulae, and distant galaxies. It is the time when the Milky Way stretches across the sky, unbroken, a river of light too vast to comprehend. Picture an ancient scholar, bent over his notes in candlelight, eager for this darkness. He lifts his eyes to the sky, and the heavens reward his patience with a field of stars so rich, it seems to whisper secrets of eternity. This was the hour when knowledge expanded, when the cosmos revealed its deeper layers. For astronomers, astronomical twilight is not an ending, but a beginning the doorway to discovery. Each of these stages is more than a measure of the sun's angle. They are moods of the earth, emotional shifts written in light and shadow. Civil twilight is comfort, the reassurance that the day still lingers. Nautical twilight is mystery, the invitation to dream and to navigate by starlight. Astronomical twilight is revelation, the unveiling of a universe too grand to fit into daylight hours. Think of them, if you will, as three movements of a symphony. The first is gentle and familiar, played on warm violins. The second is haunting, with deeper notes that tremble like waves. The third is profound, opening into the full orchestra of stars. To move through twilight is to listen to the cosmos playing its evening song. For many cultures, twilight was not just a time of sky but a time of spirit. In ancient Egypt, the god Ra was believed to sail his sun bark through the underworld each night. Dusk was the beginning of his perilous journey, civil twilight, his gentle farewell, nautical twilight, his descent into shadow, and astronomical twilight, his full passage into mystery. To the Norse, twilight was an omen of Ragnarok, the fading of gods, the foreshadow of a night that would end all nights. And in Japanese haiku, twilight is often the setting for fleeting beauty. A frog's leap, a bird's cry, a moment gone before you grasp it. Even science, in its precise language, cannot rob twilight of its poetry. It defines civil twilight as when the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon, nautical twilight as 12 degrees, and astronomical twilight as 18 degrees. Simple numbers, tidy categories. Yet behind those numbers is a spectrum of emotion, an invitation to slow your breathing, to soften your gaze, to feel the Earth's rotation as something alive and intimate. What if we thought of our own lives in twilight? Civil twilight could be our youth, when light still clings and the world is gentle. Nautical twilight, the middle years, when mystery deepens and navigation becomes essential. Astronomical twilight, the later years, when darkness is no longer feared but embraced as a gateway to vastness. Perhaps that is why twilight feels so poignant, because it is the sky reminding us of our own unfolding. As you listen now, let yourself imagine walking through these layers. Begin with civil twilight, your body still alert, colors still soft around you. Move into nautical twilight, the details fading, replaced by silhouettes and whispers. Then sink into astronomical twilight, a deep, peaceful darkness where stars blossom like flowers. Each step is an invitation to relax further, to surrender, to trust the night. And as you sink into your pillow, let your breath mirror the descent. Inhale lightly for civil twilight, just enough to notice. Exhale slowly into nautical twilight. Let shapes blur. Then pause in the stillness of astronomical twilight, where silence itself becomes a cradle. By the time you rest in that cradle, the stars will already be singing above you, whether you see them or not. And perhaps, as your mind drifts, you will feel that you too are part of the symphony, one soft note in the great twilight of the universe. There is something quietly magical about the very first star of the evening. For children, it is a moment to whisper wishes into the sky. For sailors, it was once a beacon. For poets, it is an eternal metaphor hope glimmering through fading certainty. That first star is not just a light in the sky. It is an invitation to cross a threshold. Have you ever noticed how the first star seems brighter than the rest? Of course, in truth, it is no brighter than its companions. It simply appears before your eyes have fully adjusted to the dark. This contrast, this moment of sudden clarity, is why it feels like a gift. For many cultures, this was a sacred moment. In ancient Greece, the planet Venus, in its evening appearance, was called Hesperus, the evening star. Children in medieval Europe would chant soft rhymes. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. And in some Native American traditions, the first star was a signal of protection, like a guardian who steps forward before the others. Scientifically, that first star is often not a star at all, but a planet. Venus, Mars, or Jupiter frequently take the honor. They shine steadily, refusing to twinkle as true stars do, because their light is reflected and steadier. If you look carefully, you'll notice that planets are calmer, while stars flicker. But to the heart, that difference hardly matters. The first point of light feels like the opening note of a lullaby, regardless of its origin. Now, once that first point appears, the night opens its map. And here we encounter one of the gentlest, most human practices of stargazing, the art of star hopping. Before telescopes, before apps and digital guides, people used their eyes and memory to leap from one star to another, tracing invisible lines to find their way. Star hopping is simple, though it carries a kind of poetry. You begin with something obvious, like the Big Dipper in the northern sky. From its bowl you can hop to Polaris, the North Star, steady and patient. From Orion's belt, you can hop down to Sirius, the brightest star in our night. Each hop is a movement of trust. If you follow faithfully, the sky unfolds. Picture it, a shepherd on a quiet hillside, his flock already asleep, tracing constellations with his finger in the air. From one bright star, he leaps in imagination to the next, until a hunter, a lion, a swan, a scorpion appear in the heavens. The shepherd does not need to write maps. The stars themselves are his atlas, and in the gentle silence of night, he knows exactly where he is. This practice lives in us even now. If you've ever looked up and tried to connect the dots in the sky, you have star-hopped. It is not science alone, but story. For constellations are not real clusters, just chance alignments. Yet to the human eye, they become myth. Orion is not a scattering of suns across thousands of light years, but a hunter drawing his bow. Ursa Major is not just 7 stars, but a great bear lumbering slowly across the firmament. What if, in another world, other beings looked up and drew their own maps? Would they see hunters and bears, or something entirely foreign? Perhaps they would see rivers of fire, or gates, or endless spirals. The constellations are not truths, but mirrors, projections of the human imagination across infinity. In that sense, to starhop is not just navigation, but conversation. You are speaking to the cosmos in your own symbols, and the cosmos is patient enough to listen. Think of how calming this can be. Your eyes move from one fixed point to another. Your mind follows. Slowly, the noise of the day recedes. Each star is an anchor, each hop a release. By the time you've traced a constellation, your breathing has slowed, your shoulders have softened. The night sky has become not just a spectacle, but a meditation. And in truth, the first star is always more than one. As the minutes pass, the second and third arrive, until the sky begins to thicken with light. It is like a choir warming up. One voice sings, then another joins, and before long, the full chorus has filled the hall. Night is not abrupt. It is cumulative. The sky layers its notes until the music is undeniable. Throughout history, people made rituals around the first stars. In Japan, it was once customary to stop and bow to the evening star. In Judaism, the appearance of 3 stars marked the end of Sabbath and the beginning of weekday time. In Rome, the household lamps were lit at the first star, symbolizing continuity between the fire above and the fire below. Across cultures, that first glimmer was more than a light. It was a signal, a shift, a bridge. Even today, you can make this ritual your own. Next time you see the first star, pause. Inhale gently, as if drawing its light toward you. Exhale slowly, releasing the weight of the day. Whisper a wish if you like, or simply allow yourself to feel connected not just to the sky, but to all the countless generations who have lifted their eyes at this same moment. Now imagine star hopping not just as a way of finding constellations, but as a metaphor for life itself. You cannot leap to every destination in one bound. You move step by step, point by point, guided by what is bright and clear before you. From one anchor to another, the path slowly reveals itself. And though the stars themselves may be distant beyond measure, the journey feels intimate, as though the night sky were designed just for you. What if you let your thoughts star hop tonight? Begin with one clear memory, one bright star of your day. Then hop gently to another, perhaps something you're grateful for, something that made you smile. Let your mind wander, but only from light to light, never lingering in shadow. Before long, your thoughts will form their own constellation, one of rest and peace. The first star is not the last. It is only the beginning. But beginnings have their own magic. They remind us that even in the deepening dark, light always finds its way first. So as you lay here, listening, remember, you have seen the first star of the evening. You have learned the art of star hopping, both in the sky and in your thoughts. And as more stars gather overhead, you may let yourself drift, knowing that you are never lost, for there will always be another point of light, another gentle step, guiding you forward into the night. When you gaze at the night sky, you may notice something curious. Most stars tremble and flicker, as though caught in some cosmic breeze. Yet scattered among them are lights that remain steady, unwavering, calm. These are not stars at all, but planets, the wanderers of the heavens. Their refusal to twinkle is their signature, a quiet insistence that they are different, that they belong to a category all their own. Why don't planets twinkle the way stars do? The answer lies in distance. Stars are so far away that their light reaches us as the thinnest of threads. As that thread passes through Earth's restless atmosphere, it bends and wavers, giving the illusion of a flicker. Planets, however, are near enough that they appear as tiny disks to our eyes, not just single points. Their light arrives in broader strokes, more resilient to the shifting air. So they shine steadily, like lanterns hanging in the dark, while stars shimmer like candles in a draught. To the ancients, this steadiness was both a comfort and a puzzle. Unlike stars, which remained fixed in their constellations year after year, the planets drifted. They wandered through the zodiac, changing places, looping backward in strange retrograde motions. Imagine early sky watchers, marking star positions on clay tablets, only to find that these special lights refused to obey. They were restless, they moved, they lived. That is why the Greeks called them planetes wanderers. Mars, glowing red, seemed the restless warrior. Jupiter, large and bright, carried the aura of a king. Venus, gleaming near sunset or sunrise, was a goddess. Saturn, slow and pale, was the elder, marking time with his deliberate pace. Each wandering light became a character in humanity's sky-bound storybook. Picture a Babylonian priest on a temple roof over 2,000 years ago. His reed stylus scratches into a clay tablet as he tracks the nightly march of Mars. He notes its sudden backward turn retrograde and feels both wonder and unease. What did it mean that the red wanderer seemed to defy the pattern? Was it an omen of war? A sign from the gods? For him, the planets were not just distant spheres of rock and gas. They were messengers, each movement a sentence in the language of heaven. Even in myth, the wanderers were given personalities. The Romans tied them to their gods. Venus with love, Mars with war, Jupiter with authority, Saturn with time. In India, the Navagraha, the 9 planetary deities, influenced fate, health, and fortune. In China, the 5 visible planets aligned with the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water. To watch the planets move was to watch destiny itself unfold in the sky. And yet, despite all this grandeur, the truth of planets is humble. They do not make their own light. They shine only because they borrow from the sun, scattering its rays back to us like polished stones in a river. There is something poetic in that. Even wanderers must carry the light of another. Even in their seeming independence, they are bound by the warmth of the star that gives them life. What if one night you step outside and notice Venus hanging low in the west? It glows with such serene brilliance that you might mistake it for a city's lamp or a passing plane. But no, it is a planet, steady, silent, watching. You might feel, in that moment, as though you are not alone. For countless generations, others have seen that same glow, whispered prayers to it, or charted voyages by it. The planets are not just wanderers, they are companions across time. There is also a meditative quality in recognizing planets among the stars. The twinkling field is vast, overwhelming, but the planets give you anchors. They remind you that not all things shimmer and change. Some lights stay calm, unblinking, patient. When your mind feels restless, you can look to a planet and let its steadiness steady you. Breathe with it. Inhale, exhale, letting your own inner flicker settle into calm. Consider the rhythm of retrograde, too, that backward motion the ancients puzzled over. Today, we know it is only an illusion, born of Earth's own motion, as it overtakes a planet in its orbit. But what a lovely metaphor it is. Sometimes, in life, you may feel as though you are moving backward, yet often it is only perspective. You are still on your path, still circling steadily, still part of a greater dance. The planets remind us that apparent setbacks may simply be shifts in how we see ourselves. Imagine this dance written as a story. Venus appears at dusk, a bright herald. Mars follows, fiery and impatient. Jupiter looms with authority, a guardian of the night. Saturn lingers behind, slow and deliberate, reminding all of the weight of time. And through it all, Earth, our home, spins and tilts, watching the wanderers glide across her ceiling. The story never ends, only repeats, like a lullaby sung endlessly to a child. Even now, with telescopes and spacecraft, the planets retain their quiet mystery. We know what they are, what they're made of, how they move. Yet, seeing them with the naked eye, among stars that tremble, they still feel special. They shine steadily, not just in physics, but in imagination. So, tonight, As you lie back and let your gaze soften, see if you can spot one of these wanderers. Notice its calm light, unbothered by the atmosphere's restless breath. Let it remind you that not all things need to flicker. Some simply shine. Some carry borrowed light with grace. Some wander, and in their wandering, they show us the beauty of stillness. And as you breathe in this calm, think of the planets not as distant rocks, but as fellow travelers. They, like you, circle the same Sunday. They, like you, are part of a family, bound together by invisible threads. They wander, yes, but they wander with purpose, weaving a pattern that has guided humanity for millennia. Let their steady glow be your guide tonight. Let it anchor your thoughts, calm your pulse, and carry you deeper into rest. For in the company of wanderers, you are never truly lost. If the planets are wanderers, then the moon is our closest companion, faithful, familiar, and endlessly changing. Night after night, it rises to remind us that we are never alone beneath the vastness of the sky. Its light is not its own, yet it feels personal, almost intimate, as though it were a lantern hung outside the window of our world. The moon does not twinkle or wander like the stars and planets. Instead, it follows a rhythm, a gentle cycle of phases that we can trace with our eyes. A sliver grows to a crescent, the crescent to a half, the half to a radiant full circle. Then, slowly, it wanes again, retreating back into shadow. This eternal breathing of light and dark is a calendar written not in paper, but in the heavens. Even before humans learned to measure days with clocks, they counted moons. Farmers sowed and harvested by its glow. Festivals blossomed in sync with its fullness, and poets poured their longing into its pale face. Why does the moon wax and wane? It is not changing itself. It is our perspective that shifts. Half of the moon is always lit by the sun, but as it circles Earth, we see different portions of that illumination. From the thin smile of a crescent to the grand fullness of a silver coin, the moon's phases are reminders that what we see depends on where we stand. Imagine a traveler in ancient Mesopotamia, recording the moon's rise in clay tablets, marking each phase with care. To him, these changes were not just natural, they were divine messages. The moon was a god, a keeper of cycles, a ruler of time itself. Or picture a poet of the Tang dynasty in China, gazing at the full moon during the Mid-Autumn festival, raising a cup of wine, and whispering verses about longing and reunion. Across cultures and centuries, the moon has been a mirror for human feeling. But the moon is not only a companion of the heart, it is also a master of the seas. Its gravity pulls upon Earth's oceans, raising tides that breathe in and out twice each day. When the moon is full or new, aligned with the sun, the tides grow stronger, spring tides that rise higher and fall lower. When the moon is at quarter phases, the pull is gentler, creating neap tides. Without the moon, our coasts would be stiller, our oceans quieter, our rhythms less dramatic. Think of it. The same glow that lights your window also stirs entire seas. The moon's touch is vast, yet delicate. It reminds us that small, steady forces can shape great things. A quiet presence in the sky can move millions of tons of water on Earth. Perhaps, too, it can move our own inner tides. What if emotions are like oceans, pulled by hidden moons? There are nights when you feel full overflowing with light and certainty. There are nights when you feel thin, crescent-like, fragile, yet neither state is permanent. Just as the moon changes, so do you. Perhaps the moon whispers to us. You are allowed to ebb and flow. You are allowed to shift. In its cycle, we find permission for our own. The moon has long been tied to myth and mystery. To the Romans, she was Luna, riding a silver chariot across the night. To the Greeks, she was Selene, her face radiant, her gaze eternal. In Hindu tradition, Chandra is a deity of beauty and fertility. In countless folk tales, the moon is a watchful eye, a protector of travelers, a keeper of secrets. Children still imagine its surface as a face, smiling down with ancient patience. And then there is the question that lingers in many what-ifs. What if Earth had no moon? Our nights would be darker, our oceans less restless. Perhaps life itself would have unfolded differently. For the tides stirred by the moon may have helped early creatures adapt between sea and land. Without it, the dance of evolution might have slowed, or taken another form entirely. Or imagine if we had two moons, two rhythms, two cycles, two tides pulling against each other. The sky would look stranger, but our stories might be richer still. Science tells us that the moon was born from a collision, a massive impact that tore a piece of Earth into the sky. And yet, from that violence came beauty, the companion we see each night, shaping our tides, guiding our calendars, inspiring our songs. Perhaps the moon reminds us that even from chaos, something steady can emerge, something gentle enough to lull us to sleep. Tonight, if the moon is visible, pause for a moment. Notice its glow, soft but insistent. Notice how its light spills not like the sun's blaze, but like water poured slowly from a jug, shimmering across rooftops and trees. Let it bathe your room in its calm. And if it is hidden tonight, know that it still moves above the clouds, still shapes the tides, still follows its rhythm. Its absence is only temporary. As you breathe, you might imagine your own body as an ocean, your breath as waves. Inhale, the tide rising, drawn by an invisible pull. Exhale, the tide falling, releasing what it no longer needs. In this rhythm, you are not separate from the moon. You are part of its cycle, a smaller sea echoing the greater one. Perhaps this is why the moon has always been a symbol of reflection, not only in the literal sense of reflecting the sun's light, but in how it reflects our inner lives. We look to it and see not just craters and plains, but moods, stories, questions. It tells us that darkness is not absence, but canvas. That light can be borrowed, yet still beautiful. That cycles are not failures, but patterns of renewal. So as you lie here tonight, let the moon be your companion. Let it remind you that you are part of something larger, a dance of gravity and light, emotion and rest. Let it steady your heart as it steadies the seas. And when you close your eyes, imagine the silver glow still watching over you, quiet, patient, eternal. The moon is not far. It is close enough that its pull shapes your very world. And yet, it is far enough to seem like a dream. Perhaps that is why it is the perfect companion for sleep, real enough to comfort, distant enough to inspire. Rest, then, under the moon's gentle gaze. Let your tides soften. Let your emotions settle. Let yourself drift, knowing that, like the moon, you are always in motion, always in cycle, always part of a greater rhythm that will carry you safely into dawn. When the night grows deep, away from the glare of cities, another wonder reveals itself. It is not a single star, nor a wandering planet, but a sweeping band across the sky, a faint, misty river of light. This is the Milky Way, our galaxy seen from within. To many eyes, it looks like a brushstroke across the heavens, soft and shimmering. But in truth, it is billions of stars, each one a sun, stretching across the great spiral that is our cosmic home. The Milky Way does not shout its presence. It whispers. You must seek it from places where the dark is truly dark, on mountaintops, deserts, or quiet countryside fields. There, when your eyes have adjusted, the sky blooms with its hidden current. It arches overhead like a bridge, one shore in the north, one in the south, and you stand beneath it as though standing at the center of a celestial river. Long before telescopes explained its nature, people saw the Milky Way as a path, a story written across the firmament. The Greeks believed it was milk spilled from the breast of the goddess Hera, scattering stars in its trail. In China, it was the Silver River, a separation between two lovers, the cowherd and the weaving maiden, who could only meet once a year when magpies formed a bridge across its waters. In Finland, it was called the pathway of birds, guiding migratory flocks through the night. Each story reveals something profound. The Milky Way was never just stars. It was meaning, connection, longing. A reminder that across cultures, humans turned their eyes upward and sought in that pale arc a reflection of their own lives. And yet, when science gave us its explanation, the poetry did not vanish. To know that the Milky Way is a spiral galaxy over 100,000 light-years across, containing perhaps 400 billion stars, this knowledge does not shrink the wonder, it deepens it. Imagine, for a moment, that every point of light you see in that cloudy band is itself a sun, with its own worlds, perhaps its own stories. Each one is both unimaginably far and quietly present, stitched into the same fabric you inhabit. What if, among those billions, there are other rivers of light, other beings gazing upward, seeing their own version of a Milky Way? Perhaps they too have myths of lovers, separated by cosmic rivers, or birds tracing paths across the heavens. The galaxy becomes not just a fact, but a bridge of imagination, connecting you with unseen companions across time and space. The Milky Way is also a reminder of perspective. From Earth, we see only a slice, a cross-section of the great spiral. It is as if you stood deep inside a forest and saw trunks stretching endlessly in one direction. You cannot see the whole forest from within, only the density around you. In the same way, we cannot see the galaxy's spiral arms directly. We live inside them, immersed, like fish in a cosmic sea. Imagine yourself lying on a meadow at midnight, the arc of the Milky Way above you. Each breath you take feels small compared to that immensity. And yet, it is not separate from you. The atoms in your body, the carbon in your cells, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood were forged in ancient stars long before the Earth was born. When you gaze at the Milky Way, you are not just looking at the galaxy. You are looking into your ancestry. You are starlight, remembering itself. The Milky Way has guided more than stories. It guided journeys. Polynesian navigators followed its curve across the ocean, using it as a compass for vast voyages between islands. Desert travelers looked to its arc for direction across endless dunes. In some traditions, the dead were believed to walk the Milky Way after life, a shining road to the next world. It was both map and mystery, direction and destiny. Even now, in our era of satellites and GPS, the Milky Way remains a guide of a different kind, not to physical places, but to perspective. To stand beneath it is to feel small in the best way, to remember that worries shrink beneath the canvas of stars, that time itself feels gentler when measured against the sweep of galaxies. Let's pause here. Picture the Milky Way not as distant, but as a river flowing above you. Imagine lowering a hand into its waters, feeling cool starlight stream between your fingers. Hear it as a hush, a lullaby sung not in words but in countless points of light. As you breathe, match the rhythm of that silent river, slow, steady, unending. What if the Milky Way is not just a galaxy, but a mirror of the mind? Our thoughts, too, are billions flickering, vast, sometimes clouded, sometimes clear. To look at the Milky Way is to look at the architecture of memory, of imagination. And just as the galaxy holds stars you cannot see with the naked eye, your mind holds possibilities, still waiting to be revealed. The poet Dante once called the stars eternal pearls. The philosopher Kant looked at the Milky Way and found both awe and humility, writing of the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Across centuries, the arc of light above has inspired both myth and reason, song and science, always pointing us back to wonder. Tonight, let it point you to rest. Let the Milky Way remind you that you are part of something immeasurable, yet intimately connected. Let it calm your pulse with its patience. Let it soften your thoughts with its immensity. For if billions of suns can shine together in one river, then surely there is room for your quiet breath, your small dreams, your gentle sleep. Close your eyes now and picture it still above you, the pale arc stretching from horizon to horizon. It is not gone when your eyes shut. It lingers in your mind, a silent current carrying you deeper into slumber. The Milky Way does not rush. It has flowed for billions of years, and it will continue long after we are gone. To lie beneath it is to be reminded, you too are carried in a greater stream. Tonight, let it take you gently, steadily, peacefully downstream into dreams. Most of us live beneath skies that have forgotten their depth. City lights pour into the heavens like restless rivers, drowning out the faintest stars. What was once a nightly canvas of thousands has become, for many, a handful of the brightest points. We call this intrusion light pollution, but perhaps it is more than a technical term. It is a veil, a curtain drawn between us and the cosmos. And yet, there are places where the curtain is lifted. They are called dark sky parks, protected sanctuaries where artificial lights are dimmed, where rules preserve the night as it once was. In these parks, the stars return. The Milky Way shines like spilled flour, the planets glow with clarity, and even the faintest clusters sparkle like hidden jewels. To walk into such a place is to step back in time, to see the sky not as a modern citizen, but as an ancestor. Imagine standing in the desert of Utah, or the wide plains of Namibia, or a high mountain pass far from towns. The night falls, and with it, silence deepens. At first, your eyes resist. They cling to the dim horizon, expecting neon, lamps, headlights. But slowly, as the minutes stretch into half an hour, your pupils widen, your retinas awaken, and the invisible becomes visible. Stars multiply. Where there were 10, there are now 100. Where there were 100, there are thousands. The dome above transforms, alive with glittering detail. This adjustment of vision is called dark adaptation. Your eyes carry two types of receptors: cones, tuned for color and daylight, and rods, tuned for shadow and night. In our lit cities, the cones dominate, feeding us a constant diet of brightness. But in true darkness, the rods awaken, sensitive enough to detect a single photon. To experience a dark sky park is not just to see more stars, it is to remember that your body was built for night as well as day. Think of what this means for the spirit. Light pollution is not only about stars lost, it is about wonder lost. In ancient times, the night sky was everyone's teacher, storyteller, calendar. Without the stars, we may forget our scale, our place, our kinship with the universe. Dark sky parks restore not just the view, but the lesson. They whisper, "You are part of something larger, older, vaster than you can imagine." What if, tonight, you turned off the lights in your own home, one by one? What if you allowed the room to grow darker, softer, quieter? Would you notice new details? Perhaps the faint outline of furniture in moonlight, or the way shadows stretch like threads across the floor. Turning off light is not deprivation, it is discovery. There is a magic in surrendering to darkness. We fear it sometimes, equating dark with danger. But in the language of the stars, darkness is not threat, it is canvas. Without it, the stars could not sing. Without it, the moon could not glow. Without it, our dreams would have no place to unfold. In a dark sky park, people often describe the experience as overwhelming. Tears come without reason. Silence feels deeper. A strange humility presses on the chest. And yet, alongside the humility, there is comfort. For in the face of immensity, one's own worries shrink. Bills, deadlines, arguments, all grow faint compared to the glittering vault above. Let us pause to imagine. You are lying on your back on a cool blanket, in a meadow far from the nearest town. Above you, the Milky Way stretches, bright enough to cast shadows. Your breath slows. You can hear crickets, perhaps the rustle of a night breeze. There are no screens here, no buzzing neon. Only the endless dome, sprinkled with light. And as you gaze, you feel not loneliness, but belonging. The galaxy itself seems to welcome you, to gather you into its fold. Even science benefits from such darkness. Astronomers seek it desperately. Great observatories are built in remote deserts and high peaks to escape the glare of cities. For them, each artificial light is not just wasteful energy, it is a thief of clarity, stealing faint galaxies, faint signals, faint truths. To protect darkness is to protect discovery. But for you, here and now, darkness is not about research. It is about rest. When lights are dimmed, your body produces melatonin, the hormone that invites sleep. Brightness at night confuses your inner clock, delaying rest, muddling dreams. Darkness heals. It tells your cells the day is done. The time for renewal has come. Perhaps this is the deeper lesson of dark sky parks, that turning off lights is not merely ecological, but existential. It is a way of rejoining the rhythm of the earth, the rhythm of stars. It is remembering that we were never meant to live under constant glow. Night was designed as half our world, half our breath. What if cities one day agreed to pause their lights once a year, to honor the stars with a festival of darkness? Imagine millions looking upward together, rediscovering the Milky Way, pointing out constellations, telling stories as their ancestors did. For one night, the world might remember its place in the galaxy. Until then, there are still places we can go, parks, deserts, mountains, to find the night as it truly is. And there are still choices we can make, dimming lamps, silencing screens, drawing curtains to invite a little more darkness into our lives. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let yourself imagine that your room is such a sanctuary. Picture the lights dimming, the stars returning, the Milky Way arching above. Feel how your body softens in response, how your breath slows, how your mind unwinds. In this gentle darkness, you are safe. You are part of the great cycle of light and shadow, wakefulness and rest, day and night. Let the stars fill your imagination. Let the darkness be your cradle. Let the magic of turning off the lights carry you into dreams where the sky is whole again. When most people think of the night sky, they picture stars, planets, or perhaps the bright face of the moon. Yet the heavens hold subtler wonders, delicate veils of light that linger at the edges of perception. These are not stars nor weather clouds, but phenomena born of Earth's atmosphere and the whisper of sunlight that lingers even when the sun itself is gone. They are the night's secret clouds, airglow, noctilucent clouds, and zodiacal light, each one a soft reminder that darkness is never absolute. Let us begin with airglow. Unlike the sudden, fleeting shimmer of an aurora, airglow is a steady breathing of light in the sky. Even on the darkest nights, our atmosphere itself glows faintly, releasing energy as atoms and molecules settle from the day's sunlight. This glow is usually too subtle for city eyes, but in remote places, you may see it as a faint green or reddish sheen across the heavens, like watercolor brushed across black velvet. Imagine standing in the desert, where silence hums and the stars seem endless. You tilt your head back, and you notice the sky is not entirely black. Instead, it holds a quiet radiance, as though the air itself is alive. That is airglow, the Earth's soft exhalation, a reminder that even at night, our planet is busy breathing. Now turn your gaze higher, to the noctilucent clouds. These are the rarest of all clouds, formed not in the troposphere where weather lives, but in the mesosphere, 50 miles above Earth. They shimmer only at twilight, when the sun has already dipped below your horizon, but still catches their icy tops. Pale blue and silver, they ripple like silk curtains in the upper air. Noctilucent means night shining. And truly, that is what they are, clouds that shine in darkness. They are most often seen in summer at high latitudes, when conditions align. Imagine being in Scandinavia or Canada in June, the twilight lingering late. You look north, and there, delicate threads of silver stretch across the sky, glowing with an otherworldly light. Some say they look like waves, some like feathers, some like a dream that refuses to dissolve. Once, these clouds were unknown. They were first recorded in the late 19th century, after the great eruption of Krakatoa filled the atmosphere with dust. Since then, they have been linked to the highest, coldest regions of air, where ice crystals form around tiny particles. To see them is to glimpse a sky that seems to belong not to Earth, but to another world entirely. And then, near the horizon at certain times of year, you may encounter the zodiacal light. Unlike airglow or noctilucent clouds, this is not born of Earth at all, but of space itself. The zodiacal light is a tall, faint triangle of brightness, appearing just before dawn or just after dusk. It is sunlight scattered by countless grains of cosmic dust debris left behind by comets, spread in a thin disk along the plane of the solar system. At its best, the zodiacal light looks like a ghostly pyramid rising from the horizon, pointing toward the stars of the zodiac. In ancient times, it was sometimes mistaken for the glow of a distant city or a faint aurora. To desert travelers, it was a lantern for the road, appearing before dawn as a herald of the day to come. What connects these three phenomena, airglow, noctilucent clouds, and zodiacal light, is subtlety. They are not obvious like the moon or stars. They require patience, attention, darkness. They reward the observer who lingers. In this way, they are like whispers of the night, secrets shared only with those who take the time to listen. Consider how they reflect the balance of our world. Airglow reminds us that the Earth is never silent, always alive with energy. Noctilucent clouds remind us that beauty can form even in the highest, coldest places. Zodiacal light reminds us that the cosmos itself, filled with dust and debris, can still shimmer with grace. Each carries a lesson in gentleness, that even faint things matter, even subtle lights are worth noticing. What if we thought of our own lives in the same way? The bright events like stars are easy to notice, but perhaps the airglow moments, the faint glimmers of kindness, of quiet joy, of unnoticed peace, are just as important. Perhaps the rare noctilucent moments, appearing only at the right time, in the right conditions, leave the deepest imprint. And perhaps the zodiacal dust of our days, the smallest fragments, can scatter enough light to guide us. Imagine yourself lying on your back, somewhere quiet. The Milky Way arcs above, but your eyes, patient now, begin to catch the subtler lights. A faint green glow in the air, like a breath. A silver thread of cloud, shining when it should not. A pale triangle rising from the horizon, fragile but undeniable. In that moment, you realize that the night is not empty. It is layered, textured, alive. Scientists measure, calculate, explain. Yet even they confess to awe at these sights. For in their instruments they see data, but with their eyes they see wonder. And for you, lying quietly, drifting into rest, it is wonder that matters most. So tonight, as your thoughts settle, Let them become like these subtle lights. Let them soften, quiet, but still shine. Let your worries dissolve, like clouds in twilight. Let your breath be steady as air glow. Let your hopes shimmer like noctilucent silver. Let your dreams rise like zodiacal light, faint but guiding. Darkness is never empty. The sky proves it. Even in shadow, light finds ways to whisper. Even in silence, beauty finds ways to appear. Close your eyes now, and imagine the heavens layered above you, not just stars, but glows and veils, faint and fragile, yet eternal. Let them lull you into sleep, carrying you into dreams where the night is always alive with gentle light. The night is never still. Even when the stars appear fixed, the planets steady, and the moon calm, there are moments when the sky suddenly moves. A streak of light darts across the darkness, swift and silent, as if someone has struck a match in the heavens. This is a meteor, a grain of dust, no larger than a seed, burning as it races through Earth's atmosphere. And when meteors arrive in groups, like a gentle rain of fire, we call them a meteor shower. Meteor showers are not random. They are gifts left behind by comets. Each time a comet loops close to the sun, it sheds dust and ice along its path. Earth, in its endless orbit, crosses those trails at certain times each year. When that happens, the tiny fragments enter our sky, flaring for a second before fading into memory. To us, they are falling stars. In truth, they are only visitors, cosmic dust knocking softly on the roof of night. There is something deeply human in the way we greet these fleeting lights. Across centuries, people have made wishes upon them, believing that a soul's secret could be carried upward by their brief fire. In some traditions, meteors were seen as messages from the gods. In others, they were sparks from celestial forges, embers from battles fought in the heavens. Always, they stirred the imagination. For how could such sudden beauty not feel like a sign? Scientifically, meteor showers are predictable, even dependable. Each August, the Perseids arrive, traced back to the comet Swift-Tuttle. In December, the Geminids scatter their light, born not of a comet but of an asteroid called 3,200 Phaethon. April brings the Lyrids, October the Orionids. Each shower is like a holiday of the night, marked not by human calendars, but by cosmic ones. Picture a field on a summer night. The air is warm, the crickets sing, and you lie back on a blanket with your eyes wide open. Suddenly, a streak flashes across the stars, then another, then another. Some are quick and faint, others bright enough to leave trails that linger. You wait, eyes scanning, never knowing when the next will appear. The experience is half patience, half surprise, like listening to a melody with pauses between the notes. Meteor showers are best seen not with telescopes but with the naked eye. They are wide and unpredictable, streaking across different parts of the sky. All you need is darkness, time, and perhaps a little warmth against the chill of night. There is a meditative quality to it, the act of simply lying still, watching, waiting, letting the universe perform in its own rhythm. What if we thought of meteor showers not just as cosmic dust, but as reminders of impermanence? Each streak is brief, gone almost before you can point to it, yet the memory lingers. In that way, meteors are like moments of joy, laughter, or tenderness. They flare brightly, vanish quickly, but leave warmth behind. They remind us to notice, to appreciate, to hold on to the fleeting beauty of now. The ancients often wove stories from these lights. To the Greeks, Perseus, the hero, gave his name to the Perseids. In Japan, meteors were thought of as falling souls, rushing to Earth. In some Native American traditions, they were campfires lit by spirits traveling across the sky. Each culture found in meteors a story of connection between heaven and earth, fleeting but powerful. Science tells us they are harmless, mostly burning to ash before reaching the ground. But imagination tells us they are wishes, or messages, or omens. And perhaps, in a way, both are true. For even if they are dust, they carry meaning because we give it. Their briefness is precisely what makes them valuable, like the sudden laughter of a child, or the glimmer of an old photograph found by chance. Tonight, you can turn meteor showers into a ritual of rest. Imagine that each worry, each thought that clutters your mind, is a fragment of cosmic dust. As you breathe, picture those fragments streaking across your inner sky, burning bright and vanishing. Each exhale releases one more, until your mind grows clear, wide, open to stars. Let your thoughts fall like meteors, beautiful and brief, leaving behind only calm. And consider this: the dust that burns in our sky is ancient. Some particles are older than Earth itself, relics from the birth of the solar system. When you watch a meteor streak across the dark, you are seeing matter that has traveled billions of years, only to end in 1 second of brilliance above your eyes. It is a story of patience, of journeys beyond comprehension, arriving to remind you of the wonder in impermanence. What if dreams are like meteor showers too? Flashes of strange beauty, sudden and fleeting, that vanish when we wake. And yet, like meteors, they leave something behind: a trace, a feeling, a story that lingers. Perhaps the night sky itself dreams, and meteors are the sparks of its slumber. So as you rest tonight, imagine the heavens alive with these soft visitors. See them dart across your closed eyes, tiny arcs of light. Let each one carry away a weight you no longer need. Let them remind you that brevity can be beauty, that endings can be luminous, that even dust can glow. And when sleep comes, let it fall like a shower of meteors, unexpected, graceful, filling your inner night with sparks that fade into peace. Among the wonders of the night, few inspire as much awe or as much unease as comets. They do not shine steadily like planets, nor flicker like stars, nor appear briefly like meteors. Instead, they drift slowly into view, wearing luminous veils of gas and dust, their tails stretching across the heavens. To the naked eye, they seem both fragile and immense, like lanterns unraveling in the wind. To humanity through the ages, comets have been messengers, sometimes of fortune, sometimes of doom, always of change. Scientifically, comets are ancient travelers. They are icy bodies, born in the coldest outskirts of the solar system, in the Kuiper belt and the distant Oort cloud. For billions of years, they linger in those frozen realms, untouched. But when their orbits pull them inward, toward the warmth of the sun, they awaken. The ice within them begins to vaporize, releasing streams of dust and gas. This is how a comet grows its tail, that long, ghostly plume that can stretch millions of miles. The beauty of a comet is that it carries not one tail, but two. The first is the dust tail, bright and golden, curving gently as it reflects sunlight. The second is the ion tail, pale blue, glowing faintly, and pointing straight away from the sun as if drawn by invisible threads of magnetism. Together, these tails make the comet look alive, as though it were a traveler dragging banners through the sky. Imagine standing in a quiet field centuries ago, and suddenly noticing such a shape rising over the horizon. No warning, no explanation, only a strange, glowing visitor painting the heavens. For ancient eyes, this was no ordinary event. It was a sign. The Chinese called them broom stars, sweeping across the heavens. In medieval Europe, they were omens of war or plague. The Bayeux Tapestry even shows Halley's comet blazing over England in 1066, as armies prepared to clash. For some, comets foretold disaster. For others, they promised change, a shift in destiny. And yet, comets are not curses. They are archives of the solar system's earliest days. Their icy cores contain materials unchanged for billions of years, frozen time capsules from the birth of planets. When a comet passes close enough to study, it tells us stories of origins, of chemistry, of how water, and perhaps even life's building blocks reached Earth. They are not destroyers, but carriers of memory. What if comets are storytellers? Each one drags not only a tale of dust, but a tale of history. Each one whispers, "I have come from the far edges, where the sun is but a distant spark. I have wandered for millennia, waiting to pass your sky. And when I do, I leave a trace, a reminder that even in vastness, paths can cross." Picture Halley's Comet, the most famous of all. Every 76 years, it returns, visible to those who live long enough. It appeared in the skies of ancient China, of medieval Europe, of the Renaissance, of our modern world. Each generation greets it as both an old friend and a stranger, knowing it will come again after they are gone. To watch Halley's Comet is to touch time itself, to feel connected across centuries by a single wandering light. Comets have inspired not only myths, but also dreams. Some have imagined traveling with them, hitching a ride as they loop through the solar system. What would it feel like to glide alongside such a body? You would pass the orbits of planets, drift through the asteroid belt, then swing past the sun in a blaze of vapor and light. Your path would not be steady, but elongated, stretching across unimaginable distances. You would be a nomad of the sky, a pilgrim of the stars. There is a paradox to comets. They are both fleeting and eternal. Fleeting because their appearances last only weeks or months before they vanish again into the dark. Eternal because they will return, long after we are gone. They embody impermanence and continuity at once, reminding us that absence is not always an ending, but part of a cycle. Tonight, as you rest, you might imagine a comet passing slowly overhead. Its tail unfurls like a banner. Its nucleus glows like a coal carried across space. You feel no fear, only wonder, for in its presence, you understand how small and yet how connected you are. The comet has traveled for millions of years to cross your sky, and in seeing it, you have shared in its story. Let your thoughts drift with it. Imagine your worries as dust, trailing behind you, illuminated for a moment before fading into nothingness. Imagine your hopes as the glowing nucleus, steady and persistent, carrying you forward. Imagine your dreams as the tail itself, bright and beautiful, stretching across the night. Comets are not common. Most people see only a few in their lifetime, but their rarity is part of their gift. They remind us to pause, to look up, to notice. They remind us that beauty is not always constant. It arrives, it dazzles, it departs, and in its absence, it lingers as memory. So if you ever see a comet, let it be more than a spectacle. Let it be a meditation. Let it teach you about time, about journeys, about cycles of departure and return. And tonight, even if no comet crosses your sky, you may close your eyes and imagine one. A traveler, long-haired, luminous, gliding silently above, carrying the ancient secrets of the solar system in its frozen heart. Sleep then, under its imagined light. Let it guide you gently into dreams, where your own life feels like part of a longer orbit, a longer story, a longer glow. There are nights when the sky does more than shine, it dances. Curtains of green ripple above, streaks of violet and red shimmer at the edges, and the heavens themselves seem alive with movement. These are auroras, the northern and southern lights, nature's own calligraphy drawn upon the canvas of night. The science is simple, yet astonishing. The sun constantly breathes out a stream of charged particles, a wind invisible to our eyes. Most of the time, Earth's magnetic field shields us, diverting the solar wind around our planet. But near the poles, where the shield dips and funnels, those particles pour into the atmosphere. There, they collide with atoms of oxygen and nitrogen, releasing energy as light. Green for oxygen at one altitude, red for oxygen higher still, blue and violet for nitrogen. Together they weave luminous veils that shimmer across the polar skies. Imagine, for a moment, the solar wind as ink, and Earth's magnetic field as a brush. Each stroke across the sky is a message, fleeting but exquisite. The aurora does not last in one shape. It flows and transforms, ribbons twisting, arcs rising, crowns of light bursting before fading again. It is the closest the sky comes to movement as graceful as dance. For those who have stood beneath them, auroras are unforgettable. Picture yourself in the silence of a northern winter. Snow crunches softly under your boots, your breath steams in the cold air. Then, above, the sky begins to glow, first faint, then growing, until great curtains sweep across the dome. It feels as though the heavens themselves have opened, as though unseen hands are painting directly before your eyes. Cultures across the world gave auroras, meaning long before science offered its explanations. To the Sami of Scandinavia, the northern lights were living spirits, to be respected in silence. In Inuit tradition, they were the souls of the departed, playing ball with a walrus skull. In Norse myth, they were reflections of Valkyrie's armor, as they rode across the night sky to choose the fallen. In Japan, auroras were considered auspicious, a sign of good fortune, and even of children destined for greatness. And yet, no matter the story, the feeling was the same: awe. To stand beneath the aurora is to feel both small and included, humbled and uplifted. For in that glowing sky, the line between human and cosmos feels thinner. Even now, when we know of magnetic fields and solar winds, auroras carry their enchantment. The knowledge does not reduce their beauty, it deepens it. Imagine those particles leaving the sun days earlier, traveling millions of miles across space, only to collide with our atmosphere in a single burst of green light. You are watching a journey end in brilliance, a story written not in words but in waves of color. What if we thought of auroras as letters, messages written by the universe itself? Each arc is a sentence, each ripple a phrase, each burst a word. The message is not one we can translate, but one we can feel. It says, you are part of this dance. You, too, are shaped by unseen forces, moved by winds you cannot see, glowing with energies you may not even realize you carry. For those who live far from the poles, auroras may remain a dream. But dreams are powerful. You can imagine them even now. A sky that shifts like silk in slow motion, colors streaming as though woven by invisible hands. You can let that vision calm you, just as surely as if you were standing beneath the real lights. And consider this: auroras are not limited to Earth. Other planets with magnetic fields and atmospheres, Jupiter, Saturn, also have auroras, some larger and more intense than ours. Across the solar system, the solar wind writes its calligraphy on many canvases. To think of this is to realize that the dance of light is not just ours, it is a cosmic art form. There is also a rhythm to auroras that resembles our own moods, sometimes faint and quiet, like a whisper of green, sometimes erupting suddenly, filling the sky with energy. Our emotions, too, arrive in waves, shaped by forces beneath the surface. And just as auroras fade back into stillness, so do our storms of feeling, leaving calm behind. What if, tonight, you let yourself become an aurora in your own way? Your breath, the solar wind; your body, the magnetic field; your mind, the sky. As you inhale, imagine streams of light rising within you. As you exhale, picture them unfurling above, painting your inner darkness with ribbons of peace. Each breath writes a new stroke, a new arc, a new word. Slowly, you become your own calm canvas. The beauty of auroras lies not only in their color, but in their impermanence. They appear, they astonish, they vanish. You cannot hold them. You can only remember. And perhaps that is why they move us so deeply. They are proof that some of the most breathtaking things in life are fleeting. They remind us that beauty is not diminished by its brevity. So as you rest tonight, imagine the solar wind brushing across your sky, painting it in soft green, violet, and red. Imagine the heavens moving in silence, a dance performed only for you. Let the light ripple behind your eyelids as you drift. Let the calligraphy of the solar wind write peace across your thoughts, until they, too, fade into gentle darkness. Sleep now, beneath an aurora of the mind. Let its ribbons cradle you. Let its silence soothe you. For the universe is always writing, and tonight it writes you into dreams. When we think of stars, we imagine constancy points of light that endure, unmoving across the lifetimes of generations. But not all stars are steady. Some pulse, some flare, some vanish in sudden brilliance. These are variable stars, celestial hearts that beat visibly in the sky, reminding us that even in the heavens, change is part of life. Variable stars differ in many ways. Some are like cosmic metronomes, brightening and dimming with perfect rhythm. These are the Cepheid variables, named after a star in the constellation Cepheus. Their pulses are so regular that astronomers use them as distance markers, measuring the vast stretches between galaxies. Others are more unpredictable stars that swell, shrink, or flicker with chaotic energy. Still others wait silently, only to explode in a sudden outburst, becoming novae or even supernovae. Imagine a Cepheid star as a great cosmic lung. It expands, its outer layers swelling, its light growing brighter. Then it contracts, dimming again, only to repeat. If you could stand on a planet orbiting such a star, you would see your sun grow and fade like a lantern in the wind, each pulse like a heartbeat of eternity. Centuries ago, before the science was known, variable stars were mysteries. A farmer might notice that a familiar star no longer shone the same, or a sailor might track its change across voyages. What did it mean? That the heavens, thought to be perfect and unchanging, could falter. Some saw omens, some saw signs from gods, yet all saw wonder. The realization that the sky itself was alive, not fixed but breathing. And then there are the novae, the new stars. To ancient eyes, they appeared suddenly in empty patches of sky-bright lights, where none had been before. In truth, a nova is not a new star at all, but a renewal. It happens when a white dwarf star, a remnant of a once vibrant sun, pulls matter from a companion. When the pressure becomes too great, fusion ignites, and the star flares with sudden brilliance. For weeks or months, it glows as though reborn, before fading once again. Imagine the surprise of stargazers in the year 1572, when a brilliant nova blazed in the constellation Cassiopeia. Among those who observed it was the astronomer Tycho Brahe. He charted its light carefully, proving that change could occur even among the supposedly immutable stars. It was a revelation, one that helped shift humanity's understanding of the universe. And beyond novae are the supernovae cataclysms of light and energy. These occur when massive stars, having burned through their fuel, collapse under their own weight. In that collapse, they explode, releasing more light in days than an entire galaxy produces in years. To witness a supernova is to watch a sun die in splendor, scattering its elements across space iron, carbon, oxygen, the very materials of our own bodies. Consider this. Every atom of iron in your blood was forged in such an explosion. Every atom of calcium in your bones, every carbon atom in your cells, once lay within the heart of a star that ended its life in fire. Supernovae are not just deaths, they are origins. They are cosmic midwives, seeding the galaxy with the ingredients for new worlds and new lives. What if we thought of our own endings in such terms? Not as annihilation, but as transformation. The stars remind us that endings can blaze with beauty, and that from their ashes, new beginnings arise. Perhaps this is why the sight of a variable star, or a nova, or a supernova, stirs something deep within us. It resonates with the rhythms of our own lives, our changes, our pulses, our moments of collapse and renewal. Even poets noticed. The Japanese haiku master Basho once wrote of a star that seemed to falter, its dimming, echoing human impermanence. In Western thought, variable stars became metaphors for unstable love, for fickle fortune, for the inevitability of change. But beyond metaphor, they remind us of resilience, that light can return, that dimming is not the end. Picture yourself lying under a clear sky, watching a star that seems to breathe brighter, dimmer, brighter again. Let that rhythm soothe you, as though the universe itself were rocking you gently to sleep. Or imagine a sudden nova, appearing out of nowhere, like a gift. Let it remind you that surprises can be luminous, that not all sudden changes are to be feared. And think of supernovae, not as violent, but as generous. In their brilliance, they give. They scatter seeds of life across the cosmos. Without them, there would be no earth, no seas, no forests, no you. In their death, they ensured our birth. What a tender paradox! We owe our existence to the most dramatic endings in the universe. Tonight, as you drift, you might let your own thoughts become variable stars. Some bright, some dim, some pulsing gently. None need to stay fixed. It is all right to change, to breathe, to ebb and flow. And when sleep finally arrives, let it come like a nova sudden, luminous, carrying you into renewal. The sky is not static, and neither are we. Both are alive, both shifting, both radiant in their impermanence. In every flicker of a variable star, there is a reminder: constancy is not the only form of beauty. Change, too, can shine. So close your eyes and let the bursts of light, the pulses of brightness, the rhythms of stars echo in your mind. Let them lull you into dreams, where your own inner universe flickers gently, endlessly, peacefully. The Milky Way, vast as it seems, is not alone. When we look into the night sky, we are gazing from within one galaxy, a spiral of hundreds of billions of stars. But beyond our luminous river lie other islands of light, neighbors scattered across the cosmic ocean. The closest of these companions is Andromeda, a great spiral galaxy like our own, drifting slowly toward us. Together with smaller galaxies, they form what astronomers call the local group, our cosmic neighborhood. At first glance, Andromeda appears modest. To the naked eye, from a very dark place, it is only a faint, elongated smudge, barely brighter than the background. You might mistake it for a wisp of cloud. Yet, that faint glow is an entire galaxy larger than the Milky Way, containing perhaps 1 trillion stars. Its light takes over 2 million years to reach us. When you see Andromeda, you are looking into the past, into photons that left its stars long before humanity even existed. Imagine the patience of such light. It began its journey when saber-toothed cats roamed Earth, when early ancestors walked the plains. It crossed the intergalactic void year after year, until finally it brushed your eye. That faint smudge is not just a galaxy, it is a memory, a message carried across unimaginable distance. To the ancients, Andromeda was not a galaxy, but a princess, In Greek mythology, Andromeda was chained to a rock by the sea, a sacrifice to a monster, until rescued by Perseus. The constellation Andromeda still carries her name, her figure stretched across the night. What the ancients could not know was that hidden within her constellation was a true princess of the sky, a spiral of stars destined to meet our own. For science tells us this: the Milky Way and Andromeda are on a slow collision course. In about 4 billion years, the two galaxies will merge, their stars swirling together in a cosmic dance. To imagine, it is almost impossible: two titanic spirals, each 100,000 light-years across, colliding not with chaos, but with elegance. For though the galaxies will overlap, the stars themselves are so far apart that few will actually collide. Instead, they will weave around each other, pulled by gravity, forming new shapes, new spirals, new worlds. What if we thought of this not as destruction, but as transformation? Just as rivers merge to form a mightier flow, so too will the Milky Way and Andromeda join to form a new galaxy, already nicknamed Milkomeda. In its birth, there will be beauty: long streams of stars arcing across the void, like ribbons unfurling in slow motion. For beings who may exist then, the night sky will glow with spectacles we cannot now imagine. Andromeda is not alone. Our local group holds about 60 galaxies, most of them small dwarfs that orbit the larger spirals. Two of these, the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds, are visible in the southern hemisphere, faint, hazy patches that drift like celestial lanterns. To Polynesian navigators, they were guides across the ocean. To southern storytellers, they were clouds of spirits wandering the heavens. To modern astronomers, they are neighbors, close enough that we can see their stars individually. The local group is like a quiet village, galaxies bound together by gravity. Each one spins with its own rhythm, yet all are drawn into a shared future. Together, they orbit the center of an even larger structure, the Virgo supercluster, and beyond that, the cosmic web itself. But here, in our small corner, Andromeda is the figure who dominates the horizon, the great neighbor, approaching slowly, steadily, silently. Consider how this perspective can soften our own sense of time. We worry about hours, days, years. Yet galaxies measure their lives in billions of years. For them, 1,000,000 years is but a moment, a breath. When you gaze at Andromeda, you are reminded of patience, that change unfolds in its own rhythm, that not all journeys are hurried. Picture yourself beneath a dark sky, looking up at that faint smudge. To most, it is almost invisible, but to you, it becomes a bridge. You know now what it is: a spiral of stars, a trillion suns, countless possible worlds. You let your eyes soften, and in that faint blur, you imagine a city of light so vast that it dwarfs all human endeavor. You feel no fear, only wonder, for you realize that you, too, belong to such immensity. What if beings in Andromeda were looking back at this very moment? They would see our Milky Way as a faint haze, just as we see theirs. They might wonder, too, if anyone lived within it, if anyone looked back. Perhaps across the darkness, we and they are mirrors to one another, each dreaming of connection. Andromeda is faint, yes, but it is enough. Enough to remind you that even in apparent emptiness, marvels reside. Enough to show you that you are part of a greater neighborhood, a local family of galaxies, all moving together through space. Tonight, as you drift toward rest, let your mind travel to Andromeda. Picture its spiral arms, its glowing core, its quiet patience. Imagine yourself carried on a current of starlight, drifting gently between galaxies. Let your breath become that current, slow, steady, unhurried. With each exhale, you cross another light year. With each inhale, you arrive a little closer to peace. The local group is vast, but in imagination, it is as close as your heartbeat. You are part of it. You belong not just to Earth, not just to the Milky Way, but to a community of galaxies. And in that belonging, there is comfort. Close your eyes now. Let Andromeda's faint glow linger in your thoughts. Let the village of galaxies cradle you. Let the slow, patient merging of stars remind you that all things move toward unity. And as you fall asleep, know this: even across millions of light years, you are never truly alone. Most nights, the heavens appear steady, each light in its place, each planet wandering slowly on its own path. But sometimes, the sky surprises us with a meeting, a moment when two or more celestial bodies draw close together, creating patterns of rare beauty. These are conjunctions, eclipses, and occultations, events that turn the ordinary rhythm of the night into a performance. They are the sky's way of showing us that even in vastness, paths can cross, shadows can dance, and separations can fade. A conjunction is perhaps the gentlest of these meetings. It occurs when two objects in the sky, usually planets, or the moon and a planet, appear very close together from our point of view. They are not actually near in space. Jupiter may still be hundreds of millions of miles farther than Venus. But to our eyes, they draw near, like old friends pausing on a crowded street. Imagine stepping outside to see Venus and Jupiter glowing side by side, like twin lanterns suspended in the dusk. Their light feels doubled, their presence intimate. Ancient skywatchers often saw conjunctions as omens, believing the gods themselves were conferring. Even today, there is something comforting about them, as though the universe had arranged a small rendezvous just for us to notice. Then there are eclipses, more dramatic, more theatrical. An eclipse happens when one body passes directly in front of another, hiding its light. The most familiar are solar and lunar eclipses. In a solar eclipse, the moon slides across the sun, dimming day into twilight, turning birds quiet, stirring awe and unease. In a lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow falls across the moon, painting it in copper and crimson. Both are reminders that shadows are not always emptiness, they can be canvases of wonder. Picture yourself during a lunar eclipse. The moon rises full and bright, but then a dark bite begins to eat its edge. Slowly, it becomes a red lantern, glowing softly against the black. This is caused by Earth's atmosphere bending sunlight, filtering it into shades of rust and scarlet. You are, in that moment, watching the shadow of your own world stretched across the heavens. Few things make us feel as connected to the cosmos as realizing we cast shadows into space. And then there are occultations, quieter but just as magical. An occultation happens when one object passes directly in front of another and hides it completely from view. Unlike an eclipse of the sun or moon, occultations often involve the moon covering a star or planet. Imagine watching a bright star and then suddenly vanished, swallowed by the dark edge of the moon. Minutes later, it reappears on the other side, as if stepping through a hidden doorway. Occultations are celestial peekaboo, the heavens playing a gentle game with our eyes. What connects these events is their rarity. They do not happen every night. They require alignments, perfect geometry, precise timing. That is what makes them precious. To see a conjunction, eclipse, or occultation is to witness the harmony of celestial mechanics, the choreography of worlds. They remind us that the cosmos is not chaos, but a dance, with steps unfolding slowly, predictably, gracefully. Across cultures, these meetings were heavy with meaning. Ancient Chinese astronomers recorded eclipses with solemn care, believing they foretold the fate of emperors. The Mayans built temples, aligned with celestial conjunctions, marking the calendar with cosmic encounters. In many traditions, a solar eclipse was feared. Seen as a dragon or demon devouring the Sunday, drums were beaten, prayers spoken, to chase away the darkness. And yet, always, the sun returned, proving that even shadows pass. Today, we understand the mechanics. We can predict every eclipse, every conjunction, centuries in advance. But knowledge does not strip away wonder. To stand in the path of totality during a solar eclipse, to see the day turn to night, is to feel a shiver that no equation can capture. To watch the moon slip red in an eclipse is to feel the weight of Earth's presence in the cosmos. To see a planet disappear behind the moon is to be reminded of the fragility and precision of sight. What if we thought of our own lives as filled with conjunctions and eclipses? There are times when paths cross unexpectedly, when two journeys meet for a brief moment, creating beauty. There are times when shadows fall, dimming our light, but only temporarily. There are times when something precious seems hidden, only to reappear, unchanged, on the other side. The sky reflects our stories, if we choose to read them. Imagine, now, lying under the stars as a conjunction unfolds. Venus and Mars sit close together, like companions whispering in the night. You feel a softness in your chest, as though reminded that togetherness is part of the cosmos. Or, picture yourself beneath a lunar eclipse, the moon glowing rust red. You breathe with it, slow and steady, understanding that shadows too can be beautiful. Or see a star vanish behind the moon, only to return proof that absence is never final. As you drift toward sleep, let these celestial meetings calm you. Let them remind you that alignment is possible, that even in the immensity of space, orbits can intersect in elegance. Let them assure you that shadows are not ends, but passages. Let them teach you that disappearance can give way to return. The sky is not just distant, it is intimate, reflecting the rhythm of our lives. Conjunctions, eclipses, occultations, they are not only astronomical events, but metaphors, lullabies written in light and shadow. Tonight, let them be yours. Close your eyes now. Imagine the heavens aligning above you. Imagine the moon veiling the sun, then lifting the veil again. Imagine stars hiding and reappearing. Imagine planets meeting like old friends. Let these visions carry you, gently, into dreams where the universe is always a dance of meetings and partings, shadows and light. Long before maps were drawn, long before compasses were carved, humanity looked upward to find direction. The night sky was the first compass, its patterns steady enough to guide travelers across deserts, forests, and oceans. To look at the stars as guides is to see them not only as distant suns, but as companions, points of light that whisper, "This way, steady, onward." The most famous of these guides is the North Star, Polaris. Unlike other stars, it sits almost exactly above Earth's north axis, holding its place while the heavens seem to turn around it. To those who traveled at night in the northern hemisphere, Polaris was an anchor. Find it, and you knew where north lay. Imagine a sailor standing on the deck of a wooden ship, waves rising, sky shifting, yet there, above the mast, is Polaris, calm and steady. A friend in the chaos, a light that does not wander. But not all worlds had Polaris. In the southern hemisphere, navigators found their compass in another shape, the Southern Cross. 4 stars forming a tilted kite, pointing toward the south celestial pole. For Polynesian voyagers, this constellation was vital. They crossed vast stretches of ocean, thousands of miles, with no maps, no metal instruments, only memory and starlight. They watched the Southern Cross rise and tilt, and by its angle, they knew their path across the Pacific. Picture such a voyage. A canoe on endless water, the horizon circling like an unbroken ring. By day, the sun marks its arc, but at night, it is the stars that open the way. The navigator lies back, eyes on the heavens, mind filled with constellations that are not just shapes, but instructions. From Orion's belt to Sirius, from the Pleiades to the Southern Cross, each star is a note in a song of direction. In the deserts of Arabia, Bedouin travelers did the same. They watched the stars above the dunes, orienting by familiar constellations. The stars became not just compass points, but stories: Orion the hunter, the Great Bear, Cassiopeia, the Queen. To remember a story was to remember a path. Even now, in some traditions, elders teach navigation not with maps, but with tales, because stories stay in the heart long after numbers fade. Navigation by stars is more than practicality, it is poetry. It is trusting the cosmos enough to let it guide your footsteps, and in doing so, it teaches patience. The stars do not hurry. They rise, they set, they follow their rhythms. To follow them is to align yourself with the pace of the Earth's turning, the ocean's breathing, the universe's flow. What if you thought of your own life as a kind of navigation? Each decision, a step across a dark ocean. The stars are the values, the hopes, the truths you hold steady. Sometimes clouds hide them, sometimes waves distract you, but when you pause and look carefully, there they are still shining, still pointing you home. Think of the slaves who escaped north in the United States, following the Underground Railroad. They too looked to Polaris, calling it the drinking gourd from the shape of the Big Dipper that pointed toward it. By starlight, they found freedom. The sky was not just a compass, it was a path to survival, to hope. Even in modern times, the stars can orient us. Astronauts aboard spacecraft often train to recognize constellations, using them as checks for their instruments. For all our technology, the sky remains the most reliable map, unchanged, constant, eternal. As you rest tonight, you can imagine yourself as a voyager. Close your eyes and picture the North Star above you, steady and patient. Or imagine the Southern Cross rising on a warm ocean breeze. Feel the comfort of knowing that no matter how vast the darkness, there are always points of light to guide you. You need not be on a ship to feel this guidance. Even in your own room, the stars are above you, unseen perhaps, but present. They shine, whether you notice them or not, whether clouds hide them or cities drown them. Their constancy is their gift. They remind you that stability exists, that orientation is possible, that you are not adrift. What if every breath were a kind of navigation? Inhale, you find your direction. Exhale, you take a step. Slowly, gently, you move across the inner sea of your mind, guided by steady lights within. The journey may be long, but you are never without guidance. And perhaps that is the greatest comfort of the starry compass. It shows us that even in the darkest nights, direction exists. The stars do not vanish, they only wait for our eyes to adjust. So tonight, let the sky be your compass. Let its steadiness calm you. Let its stories guide you. Let its lights remind you that you too can find your way. For just as voyagers crossed oceans with only starlight to guide them, you can cross the quiet sea of sleep, safe in the knowledge that the heavens shine above, eternal and true. Long before clocks ticked and calendars hung on walls, the sky itself told time. The sun's rising and setting, the moon's waxing and waning, the slow drift of constellations, all of these were nature's way of marking days, months, and years. For our ancestors, the heavens were not only beautiful, they were practical, a living calendar woven above them each night. The most obvious keeper of time was the Sunday Tuo. Its daily journey across the horizon divided day from night, its shifting path across the seasons marking solstices and equinoxes. Ancient peoples built monuments aligned with these turning points. At Stonehenge, the rising sun at midsummer pierced directly through its stones, signaling the longest day. In Egypt, the temples of Karnak framed the sun's return each winter. These were not coincidences, but intentions, architecture, married to the sky, reminding communities when to sow, when to harvest, when to celebrate. The moon, too, was a faithful clock. Its phases offered a cycle of about 29 days, predictable and visible. Entire calendars were shaped by its rhythm. In China, the lunar calendar still guides festivals, the Mid-Autumn Festival, when families gather beneath the full moon, lighting lanterns in honor of reunion. In Islam, the lunar crescent marks the beginning of Ramadan, guiding a month of fasting and reflection. In Judaism, the new moon brings the sacred observance of Rosh Chodesh, a quiet reminder of renewal. Across cultures, the moon's cycle was not just timekeeping, it was spirituality written in silver. And then there were the stars. Slowly, over the course of a year, constellations rise earlier or later in the night, forming a hidden clock. The heliacal rising of Sirius, for example, was crucial in ancient Egypt. When Sirius first appeared just before dawn, it heralded the flooding of the Nile, a signal of both danger and abundance. Farmers prepared their fields, knowing the river would soon deposit fertile silt upon its banks. The stars did not just tell time, they told survival. Imagine being an ancient farmer, standing barefoot in the soil, scanning the horizon for that first glimmer of Sirius. You know that light will bring water, water will bring crops, and crops will bring life. In the shimmer of a distant star lies the fate of your family, your village, your people. The sky did not simply divide time, it gave it meaning. Festivals and rituals grew around celestial events. The winter solstice, when the days are shortest, became a celebration of light's return. The summer solstice, when the days are longest, became a time of fertility and growth. Lunar festivals honored fullness and renewal. Eclipses inspired awe and fear, turned into ceremonies of protection or thanksgiving. In every corner of the world, people lifted their eyes to the heavens, not just to mark time, but to honor it. Even now, with our digital calendars and atomic clocks, these old rhythms remain. New Year's Eve celebrates not just a number on a screen, but the turning of Earth's orbit. Harvest festivals still echo the moon's cycles. And who among us has not paused at a full moon, feeling some unnamed pull, some quiet connection to ancestors who looked up at the very same light? What if we thought of time not as something kept in devices, but as something breathed by the sky? Each sunrise is a heartbeat, each phase of the moon a breath, each season a pulse. We often rush, chasing minutes and deadlines, but the heavens remind us that time is not hurried. It is cyclical, patient, infinite. Picture yourself under a night sky, watching Orion rise earlier than it did the month before. You realize that you, too, are part of a pattern, that your days, though fleeting, are connected to cycles older than history. Your life is not outside of time, but within it, woven into the same fabric that turns stars and tilts planets. Consider the rituals still tied to the sky. The Japanese festival of Tanabata celebrates the annual meeting of two stars, Vega and Altair, separated by the Milky Way. The Hindu festival of Diwali often aligns with the new moon, its lanterns echoing the celestial darkness. Even secular holidays, New Year's fireworks, harvest feasts, midsummer celebrations trace their roots back to celestial rhythms. Humanity still dances to the music of the sky, even if we forget the tune's origin. What if your own life carried rituals like this? Not grand, but simple. A breath taken at each new moon, a moment of gratitude at each sunrise, a pause at the solstice to acknowledge the turn of the year. These small observances can reconnect you to the larger rhythms that have guided humanity for millennia. As you rest tonight, let the idea of celestial timekeeping calm you. Imagine the sun rising and setting as a pendulum, steady and faithful. Imagine the moon's cycle as a gentle wheel turning waxing, waning, returning. Imagine the stars as a clock so vast that its hands move across centuries. You are part of this clock, part of this rhythm, part of this endless turning. Close your eyes and let the festivals of the sky become your lullaby. Hear the drums of solstice celebrations, the lanterns swaying at mid-autumn, the chants beneath eclipses. Feel the continuity of generations who looked up, just as you do, and marked their days by the same lights. Time, then, is not a burden, but a gift, a reminder that you belong to a story far older, far larger, and far more beautiful than your own brief hours. Sleep now, cradled by the calendar of the heavens. Let the sun, the moon, and the stars keep time for you, steady and eternal. You need not count the minutes. The universe already counts them, in its cycles, its phases, its eternal return. For thousands of years, the only instruments humanity had for exploring the heavens were their own eyes. Naked-eye stargazing was enough to map constellations, track the moon, and chart the wandering of planets. Yet our curiosity was restless, and one day we learned to give our vision a gift, the telescope, a tube of gentle glass that stretched our sight beyond what nature had given. The first telescopes were simple, fragile things. In the early 17th century, Galileo Galilei lifted one of these tubes to the sky and saw what no one had seen before. The moon, once thought smooth, revealed craters and mountains. Jupiter, once solitary, was attended by 4 tiny moons. Saturn carried strange ears, which later became known as rings. And the Milky Way, once a cloudy band, resolved into countless individual stars. Imagine Galileo's astonishment, peering through glass, realizing that the heavens were not what tradition had said. The telescope did not just magnify it, transformed humanity's sense of place. But telescopes were never only for great discoveries. They became companions for poets, philosophers, and dreamers. A small telescope in a backyard could reveal the rugged face of the moon, the shimmering dance of Jupiter's moons, or the faint haze of a galaxy millions of light years away. To look through one was to step beyond your ordinary world, to touch the infinite with your own eye. Picture yourself now, sitting in your backyard or on a balcony. The night is calm. In front of you rests a modest telescope, nothing grand, just a quiet tool of glass and mirrors. You lean forward, adjust the focus, and suddenly, there it is, the moon, close and intimate, every crater etched in silver. You drift from its surface to Saturn, its rings delicate as a halo. You find a nebula, a faint blossom of light, where new stars are being born. Each sight is a doorway, opening your imagination wider. There is a tenderness in this act. Unlike the grand observatories with their domes and machinery, the backyard telescope is personal. It asks nothing of you but patience and wonder. It does not demand equations or expertise. It simply invites you to look, and in looking, you remember that the sky is not distant. It is reachable, touchable, shared. What if every glance through a telescope were like opening a letter from the universe? Each planet, a message, each cluster, a poem, each galaxy, a story waiting for your quiet attention. The glass does not alter the sky. It only reveals more of what is already there, reminding you that reality is always deeper than it first appears. And yet, you do not need a telescope to belong to the stars. Naked-eye stargazing remains a gift. The slow sweep of the Milky Way, the rise of Orion in winter, the glitter of the Pleiades, all of these are visible without glass. Telescopes may sharpen, but your eyes are enough. For sometimes, what matters is not detail, but presence. The simple act of looking, of noticing, is itself a kind of telescope for the soul. Still, there is a joy in the progression. From naked eye to binoculars to telescope, each step brings more intimacy with the cosmos. Binoculars show the moon's surface in relief, reveal clusters like the Beehive or the Hyades. A telescope brings Saturn's rings, Jupiter's bands, the Orion nebula's glow, and even the faintest view of a galaxy, barely a blur, is enough to remind you that you are seeing light that has traveled millions of years. Consider this. You hold in your eye the patience of the universe. Light from Andromeda left before humans spoke language, yet now it rests in your retina. Light from a star in Orion may have begun its journey during your grandparents' youth, now completing itself in your presence. The telescope is not just an instrument, it is a time machine, connecting you with past and future in a single glance. What if we thought of our own lives as telescopes, simple lenses that, when focused, reveal deeper truths? Sometimes the surface seems ordinary, just a silver disk. But look closer, and there are craters, mountains, histories written in stone. Sometimes life feels faint and blurry, like a nebula, but with patience, with stillness, the shape of beauty appears. Tonight, as you rest, imagine yourself with a small telescope at hand. You look through it, and the world narrows into clarity. A star cluster sharpens into hundreds of points. A planet glows steady, its disk serene. The moon reveals valleys and shadows, and with each sight, you feel your own thoughts grow calmer, more focused, more precise. Then, as you set the telescope aside, you lift your naked eyes again. The sky is still there, unchanged, waiting. You realize that you are enough, that even without instruments, you are connected. The telescope is a gift, but not a necessity. The bond between human and sky is older, deeper, and cannot be broken. Close your eyes now and imagine that lens lingering before you. Let it bring into focus the scattered stars of your own thoughts. Let it sharpen what was blurred, soften what was harsh, reveal what was hidden. Let your mind become clear as the telescope clears the sky. And then, when sleep comes, let it come gently, like a star sliding into view through glass, steady, beautiful, patient. For you are not only gazing at the cosmos, you are part of it, reflected in every lens, every eye, every quiet breath beneath the stars. Though the stars feel eternal, the sky you see each night is not fixed. It changes with where you stand and when you look. A traveler at the equator gazes at constellations that never rise for someone at the poles. A shepherd in January sees a different dome than a sailor in July. The sky is not one sky, it is many, painted anew by latitude and season. Consider latitude first. If you stand near the equator, you can see both hemispheres. Orion rises bold and high. The Southern Cross tilts below. The entire Milky Way arches overhead. The horizon feels wide. The vault above, alive with stars from north and south alike, but travel far north, and the Southern Cross disappears forever. Travel far south, and Polaris, the North Star, is hidden. The sky becomes local, personal, sculpted by your place on Earth. Imagine two friends, one in Canada, one in Argentina, looking up on the same night. One sees Cassiopeia, shaped like a queen's throne, circling the northern pole. The other sees the Magellanic Clouds, two faint galaxies visible only in the southern sky. The stars unite us, yet also remind us of distance, of diversity. Then consider the seasons. Earth's orbit around the sun shifts our night window into the universe. In winter, the hunter Orion dominates northern skies, his belt pointing towards Sirius, the brightest star. In summer, the swan Cygnus spreads its wings across the Milky Way. Each season carries its cast of characters, familiar and yet fleeting. Think of it as a cosmic theatre. The stage is always the same, but the actors rotate in and out. Some step into the spotlight in spring, others in autumn. None stay forever, but all return, patient and reliable, year after year. The sky is both change and constancy, a rhythm of departures and returns. Ancient peoples paid close attention to this rhythm. The rising of certain stars marked planting and harvest times. The Pleiades, a cluster of tiny diamonds, were especially important. To the Greeks, their rising before dawn signaled the beginning of sailing season. To the Maori in New Zealand, their heliacal rising marked the new year, a festival of remembrance and renewal called Matariki. Across cultures, stars were not just distant suns, they were clocks and calendars woven into survival and ceremony. Imagine a Polynesian navigator at sea. He knows which stars rise at which times of year. In June, he looks for the Pleiades low on the horizon. In December, he watches Orion climb. Each season shifts his map of the sky, and with it, his journey across the waves. The stars are not only light, they are time itself, painted above the ocean. Latitude and season combine to shape identity. The sky of a child growing up in Norway is filled with long winter nights, where constellations wheel endlessly around Polaris. The sky of a child in Kenya includes Orion overhead and the Southern Cross low on the horizon, a blend of hemispheres. The sky of a child in Patagonia shines with the Magellanic Clouds, unseen by those farther north. Each person carries a sky in memory that belongs uniquely to their place and time. What if we thought of our lives in the same way? Each phase, each latitude of age, each season of change brings new constellations into view. In youth, some stars dominate the bright ambitions, the constellations of beginnings. In midlife, other stars rise responsibilities, relationships, deeper truths. In later years, the sky shifts again, slower, steadier, filled with wisdom, like long nights, rich with patient light. Life, like the sky, is never fixed. It turns with its seasons, offering beauty in every phase. Even travelers today notice this. Move from the northern hemisphere to the southern, and the sky feels disorienting. The constellations are new, the familiar shapes are gone. Yet in that disorientation lies wonder, the realization that the universe is vast, that your home is not the only stage. Each latitude is a new perspective, each horizon a new canvas. Picture yourself tonight, lying back and imagining the world turning. With every degree of latitude, the sky tilts. With every season, the actors shift. You breathe, and in your mind you travel, north to see Polaris, south to glimpse the Southern Cross, east to watch stars rise sooner, west to watch them linger. The sky becomes a globe, a spinning dome, and you are free to wander it in thought. The stars themselves do not change. It is our vantage that moves. This is the quiet lesson of the heavens. Perspective shapes experience. What you see depends on where you stand and when you look. The same is true of life. Two people may gaze at the same world and see different constellations. Two seasons of your own life may reveal different truths. And yet, the stars remain, waiting to be seen anew. What if, tonight, you let yourself drift with the seasons? Imagine Orion striding across a winter sky. Imagine Scorpius curling his tail in the summer heat. Imagine the Pleiades rising in spring, delicate and shimmering. Imagine the long nights of autumn, when the Milky Way stretches high. Each season brings its own constellations, its own invitation to pause, notice, and belong. As you rest, feel the slow rhythm of Earth's turning. Latitude, season, place, and time, they all shape your sky, but they also shape your soul. You too are part of this dance, shifting with perspective, changing with time. And in that change, there is beauty. Close your eyes now. Picture the sky above different lands, different seasons, all turning together on one Earth. Feel yourself part of that turning, steady and gentle. Let the constellations of your thoughts drift across your mind, shifting, fading, returning. Sleep will come as naturally as stars, following the seasons inevitable, patient, eternal. Even without clocks, your body knows the time. Deep within you runs a rhythm older than civilization, older even than humanity itself. It is tuned not by numbers, but by light and darkness. This is your circadian rhythm, your inner clock, and it takes its cues from the sky. Each morning, when the sun rises, light enters your eyes and tells your brain to awaken. Hormones shift, body temperature rises, thoughts sharpen, and each evening, as the sky fades, your body responds to the absence of light. Melatonin is released. Eyelids grow heavy, the body prepares for rest. You are, in every sense, a creature of the sky. For most of human history, this rhythm was unbroken. People woke with dawn, worked by day, and slept when night fell. Fire and candlelight extended evening hours, but still the stars remained their ceiling. The heavens were not a backdrop, but a regulator, a constant companion guiding the very pulse of life. In our modern age, we have filled the night with light lamps, screens, cities glowing like artificial suns. Our bodies, still wired to the ancient rhythm, grow confused. Sleep is delayed, cycles disrupted, rest harder to find. But the sky, if we allow it, can still be our lullaby, reminding us of the gentle cadence of day and night. Imagine standing at twilight. The light dims slowly, never abruptly. First the gold fades into rose, then violet, then deep blue. This gradual descent is not random. It is nature's way of easing us from alertness into calm. The stars do not rush to appear. They come one by one, like notes in a slow song. Your body responds, even if you do not notice. Breathing slows, shoulders drop, thoughts quiet. Twilight is not just a spectacle, it is a signal. Think of the moon, too, as part of this lullaby. Its phases tug at more than tides. They tug at mood, at memory. The full moon floods the night with silver. The new moon hides and deepens the dark. Even if science debates its influence, your imagination knows. You feel the difference. The moon becomes a metronome, a slow beat marking the passage of nights, coaxing you into a rhythm of change and return. Animals follow these rhythms too. Birds sing at dawn, when light touches the horizon. Crickets chirp more loudly as darkness deepens. Flowers open and close with the sun's rise and fall. Entire forests breathe with circadian time, leaves shifting to maximize sunlight by day and folding inward at night. You are not separate from this. You are woven into the same cycle. What if you thought of your own breath as a reflection of this rhythm? Inhale like the sun, rising energy, clarity, awakening. Exhale like twilight, falling softness, release, surrender. In each cycle of breath, you live a miniature day, a miniature night. In each cycle of sleep, you echo the turning of the earth beneath the stars. Many cultures honored this truth in ritual. Monks prayed at dawn and dusk, aligning their spirits with the sky's transitions. Farmers rose at first light, trusting that their bodies mirrored the land. Festivals marked solstices and equinoxes, celebrating the balance of light and dark. These traditions were not superstition, they were wisdom, ways of living in harmony with the circadian song. Science, too, confirms the depth of this bond. Studies show that when people camp away from artificial light, their sleep cycles naturally realign with the Sunday. Their bodies fall asleep earlier, wake earlier, and feel more rested. It is as though, given the chance, the sky sings us back into tune. Picture yourself tonight, lying in bed, the lights dimmed, the hum of technology silenced. Outside, the stars glow softly, even if hidden by clouds. Your body senses this. It knows the night has come. Close your eyes. and imagine that your mind is syncing with the heavens, that your inner clock is winding down in time with the Earth's spin. What if sleep were not resistance, but surrender? Not something to fight, but something to allow. The sky invites this surrender each evening, dimming gradually, whispering through twilight, covering you with constellations like a blanket. All you need to do is follow, to trust that your body remembers how. Think of your thoughts as stars at dusk. At first, many appear, bright and busy, but as night deepens, they fade one by one until only a few remain, then none at all. This is the circadian rhythm of the mind alertness, giving way to stillness. You do not need to force it. You only need to watch and let them go. Even dreams are part of this rhythm. They arrive in cycles, tied to stages of sleep that repeat through the night. Like constellations, dreams rise, shine, and fade, only to return again. They are reminders that rest is not silence, but movement, gentle, necessary, eternal. So tonight, let the sky be your lullaby. Imagine the sun setting within you, the moon rising in your chest, the stars igniting behind your eyes. Let your breath follow the same rhythm: rise, fall, rest. You are not separate from the cosmos, you are part of its cycle, its pulse, its turning. Close your eyes now. Feel the ancient rhythm settling in your bones, the circadian tide carrying you. Just as the earth turns, just as the night deepens, you, too, can let go. For the sky has sung this lullaby for billions of years, and it will sing it still, long after tonight. Every night is a story, and every story needs its final page. For the sky, that final page is dawn. After hours of stars and silence, after constellations have drifted and the moon has kept its watch, the first threads of light return. Dawn is not an intrusion. It is the last brushstroke of the night, painted delicately across the horizon. At first, it is subtle. The stars fade almost imperceptibly, one by one, as though bowing and leaving the stage. The eastern horizon lightens, not with a sudden burst, but with a slow blooming. Blue grows pale, then pink, then gold. Shadows soften, birds stir, the world inhales, and in that moment, night surrenders, not in defeat, but in grace. Imagine lying beneath the fading stars as dawn arrives. You have drifted with constellations, sailed across galaxies in your mind, walked among comets and auroras, followed the compass of the sky. Now, the journey comes gently to its close. The sun has not yet risen, but the promise of it glows. You feel, deep in your body, the rhythm of renewal. To ancient peoples, dawn was always sacred. In Egypt, the god Ra was reborn each morning, steering his solar bark out of the underworld. In Japan, the goddess Amaterasu emerged from her cave to shine again upon the world. In countless traditions, dawn was a symbol of hope, of resilience, of the truth that darkness never lasts forever. The heavens themselves told the story. Every night ends, every shadow lifts, every cycle turns again toward light. And yet, dawn is not only about light, it is about transition. Just as dusk eases us into night, dawn eases us back into day. It is a threshold, a liminal space, where one world ends and another begins. To watch dawn is to stand in between, to feel both the fading of dreams and the promise of waking life. There is poetry in the slowness of it. The sun does not rush. It allows the horizon to glow first, then the clouds to catch fire, then the land to awaken. Each step is deliberate, patient. Perhaps the sky is teaching us how to begin our own days, not with haste, but with gentleness, with gradual unfolding. What if we thought of dawn not just as a time on the clock, but as a philosophy, a reminder that renewal need not be sudden, that beginnings can be soft. That hope can arrive quietly, without trumpets or thunder, simply by lightening the edge of darkness. For those who have traveled through the night, sailors on oceans, pilgrims on roads, guardians at watch dawn, has always carried comfort. It says, "You made it. The night has passed. The world is here again, familiar and alive." For those who have wrestled with worry or restlessness, dawn whispers the same. You are not lost. The light returns. Always it returns. And for you, lying now in the quiet, dawn is more than a time of day. It is the gentle close of this journey through the sky. You have walked with twilight, traced constellations, watched meteors fall, imagined comets blazing, stood beneath auroras, followed stars as compasses, counted time by the moon and Sunday. You have drifted with the rhythms of night, and now dawn comes as a lullaby's final note. Even if you are still awake as the first light appears, do not resist it. Let it be your permission to rest. For dawn is not only the world's awakening, it can be your surrender. The sky has carried you this far. You may let go now, knowing the light is in safe hands. Picture the horizon painted in watercolor hues, lavender, peach, silver. Picture the last star vanishing like a candle snuffed by morning. Picture the moon bowing low, slipping into the haze. You lie in that glow, wrapped in its gentleness, breathing slowly. The night has completed its arc, and you are part of that arc, carried into stillness. What if dawn is not the end, but the reassurance that cycles are eternal? Night returns, stars return, the moon waxes and wanes. Each ending is a beginning. Each beginning is born from an ending. Dawn is proof that the universe is not linear but circular, that you too are part of a rhythm that holds you in balance. As you drift towards sleep, let dawn guide you. Let its soft light wash over your thoughts, fading them one by one. Let its warmth settle on your chest, steadying your breath. Let its quiet beauty remind you that you are safe, that rest is natural, that renewal is certain. Close your eyes. The sky has turned its page. The night has finished its story. Dawn is here not to awaken you, but to cradle you into dreams. And as you surrender, remember this. You are part of the turning earth, part of the endless rhythm of light and dark, part of the great lullaby sung by the stars. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully. The universe keeps its watch.